Hello guys, how are we doing? I just wanted to come on today to speak about something that I feel particularly passionate about, and that is habit building and getting rid of bad habits, okay? For me, building positive habits is one of the foundations that I try to instill within myself to develop both personally and professionally, and I have had many bad habits in the past. So the purpose of this video is just to really share some of the things that I have learned through working with others, assisting others, and then measures, strategies and techniques that I've utilised myself to develop personally and to cut out some bad habits as well that weren't they weren't a positive influence for me. So the first thing that I wanted to do was just sort of define the word and the term habits, okay? A habit is anything that we repeatedly do that is initially an action which then becomes a learned behaviour. So types of habits. The first thing that I've came to realise, and through reading and learning, and I think a lot of us will agree, we are all habitual creatures, okay? So we get up in the morning, we brush our teeth, we drive to work, we open emails, we eat at certain times. All throughout the day, our life is dictated by the habits that we have both consciously and subconsciously formed, okay? So there are good habits: going to the gym, reading, writing, meditating, spending time with friends, watching TV, anything that has a positive effect on you. There are good habits that we have formed subconsciously and consciously, okay? There are also bad habits, so eating too much shite food, for want of a better term, drinking too much alcohol, taking drugs, spending too much money impulsively. These are habits that have a negative effect on our mental health, our financial health, our physical health, and it's important to know that although these habits are formed and ingrained in the subconscious aspect of our brain, they are learned behaviours and they can be adapted and amended with the strategies and techniques that I will show you in the next few slides. So, the science behind habits, okay? So, how are habits formed? Let's take an example. Let's take brushing our teeth. We didn't come out of the womb and automatically know that we had to brush our teeth. Our mother and our father got us up every morning and encouraged us to brush our teeth. So over time, this is a conscious habit. This is something that we are taught, and it's something that we learn to do through our behaviours at a certain time every morning or night. And over time, this goes from the conscious aspect of our brain to the subconscious. Our habits live in a part of our brain called the basal ganglia. Don't know if I've pronounced that right, but essentially the process in which we can learn and unlearn habits and behaviours is known as neuroplasticity. Sort of notice my list there when I say that word. But essentially that is the foundation of building and eradicating good and bad habits. It's important to recognise that the more we do something, the more it becomes wired into our brain. There's our consciousness and our subconsciousness is constantly working. We have 80,000 conscious thoughts a day, and there's no telling the amount of neural connections and neural messages that our subconscious brain is sending to the rest of our body. But it's important to know that all is not lost, and we can develop new positive habits and eradicate unhelpful habits. Okay, so developing good habits. To steal a term and use a phrase that I've been using quite a bit recently, it's very important that we keep it simple. By that I mean being realistic with our goals and our habits, and starting small as well. An example that I would often use in terms of habit building is going to the gym. If we decide that we want to start the gym, and we say, okay, today's the day, right, I'm gonna go to the gym every day in June, there's a fair chance that we will not be able to sustain the pace that we are moving at. That what we're asking of ourselves at that point in time might be too much. Instead of that, a more realistic expectation of ourselves would be to start small. So instead of going 5 days a week initially, go 3 days a week or 2 days a week. When your competency grows and when the habit begins to form, this usually takes place between 3 to 4 weeks. It's then time to bring up the amount of days that we go to the gym, for example. So starting small is often a very useful tactic for us. Another something that I've done in the past to help in developing good habits is to have a tracker. There's an app and I will post the link or the app picture after this video. I think it's called Habit Tracker, okay? So essentially you're sending a notification every day to check in on what you have done and haven't done. That can be utilised for good and bad habits. It sort of gives you a bit of accountability, and it also allows you to measure your progress, how well you're doing, and potentially how well you aren't doing. With informing a habit that is asking quite a lot of you, or eradicating a habit as well, the same applies. It is useful sometimes to break it into small chunks. By that I mean, if you set yourself a goal of reading 50 pages a day, it might be an idea to read 25 pages in the morning and 25 pages in the evening. That's a very simple example of how to break a habit into smaller chunks, but break it into manageable pieces for yourself. Be easy on yourself and ease yourself into the habit. And I should have actually said this at the start, but try your best not to miss more than 2 days in a row. Now, habits are notoriously difficult to form in some instances. They can take 3 to 4 weeks. They usually do take that amount of time, but they are very, very easy to break. Okay, so if we go 2 or 3 days without practicing our positive habit, it can very easily break the chain and lead to us not developing the habit as strongly and ingraining it as much in our subconscious as we would like. Finally, in terms of developing good habits, it's important to be patient. Just be patient with yourself. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither are good habits. So eradicating bad habits, unfortunately we all have them, myself included, and the first thing is having awareness of what habits we have in our day-to-day routines that don't affect us positively, that take away from our personal development, that take away from our mental wellness, our physical wellness, etc, etc, etc. For an example, I'll use eating too much junk food. So the first thing that I would say with regards to negative habits, it's important that if we are taking away something like alcohol, junk food, drugs, porn, whatever it is, it's important that when we're taking out the bad habit, we replace it with a new positive habit that can be utilised and that can replace what what we achieved physiologically and psychologically within our bodies, okay? Identifying the habit is also vitally important, and identifying triggers. So, for example, alcohol. A lot of people would, myself included, would have went to alcohol. I would have went to alcohol when I was stressed, okay? So identifying, okay, I'm stressed, being aware of the stress, and trying to minimize the trigger. So for me, I try to avoid stress as opposed to alcohol, okay? So by that, I meditate, I journal, and yeah, it's essential that we identify the trigger so that the bad habit doesn't rear its ugly head. Another great way to eradicate a bad habit is by joining forces. So if we're looking at cutting down on junk food, going to a group like Weight Watchers, joining a forum of people that are going through a similar process to you so that you don't feel that you're going it alone. Visualization, go to my last video to have a wee look at that, is also important, because say we're visualizing, we'll use junk food again, say we're visualizing how we will look after we cut out junk food, or how we would feel if we've cut out alcohol or drugs, okay? Visualization is it's a strong tool and can be utilised in the formation and eradication of habits. Planning for failure, okay? So in terms of, we'll use this in the context of trying to avoid partaking in a bad habit, okay? Planning for failure, it's notoriously hard to get rid of certain habits, okay? So it's very, very important that we plan for the event that we slip. Now, let's not preempt it and accept that it's going to happen, but if it does happen, it's important that we're resilient and that we bounce back relatively quickly. So it's important that we know exactly what we should do in the event of slipping, okay? And controlling negative self-talk as well. A lot of the times it's not our external environment. Most of the time, in fact, it's not our external environment that hinders us. It's ourselves, it's our inner chatter, our inner brain, and our inner negative self-talk. So through meditation, journaling, and having a positive outlook and consuming positive media, it's important that we minimize negative self-talk and maximize positive inflow and positive self-talk. Okay, so just to summarize, for both good and bad habits, my go-tos is a habit tracker, either in a journal or on your phone. I find journaling in general a very useful tool for controlling my thoughts and writing my thoughts on paper. Breaking it down into small chunks, so taking something that's quite daunting to look at and breaking it down into small, manageable chunks that you can utilize. Starting small, okay? So instead of going to the gym 6 times a week when we're trying to develop a good habit, going once a week. Vitally important, and having a positive outlook and a positive attitude when cutting out the bad habits and developing the good ones, okay? So finally, I just wanted to recommend this book. Some of you might have seen it. So it's Atomic Habits by James Clear, and this book it's fundamental and it is absolutely excellent at explaining it. It explains it much better than I explain it on how to form positive habits and eradicate negative habits, okay? You can also follow him on Instagram and Facebook, and he has a website as well. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend this book for anyone that is looking to develop positive habits and eradicate negative ones, okay? So Finally, I just wanted to say,
Hope you're all doing well.
and keep it simple.